Welcome to Sports Saved My Life. My name is Clayton Freck, and I'm the CEO and founder of Angel City Sports. We know the power of sport to change and in some cases save lives. We hear these compelling stories every day, and we created this show to share them with the world. Enjoy the show, and remember to like, follow, share, and comment. So today I'm thrilled to interview 51-year-old Paralympian and wheelchair curler Steve Emt. He was born in Manchester, Connecticut, and raised in Hebron, Connecticut, where he currently lives. He grew up playing multiple sports and actually played 3 sports, I think, at the varsity level in high school, soccer, basketball, and baseball. Recruited to play both basketball and soccer at West Point. After a family tragedy, left West Point and then walked on at the basketball team at the University of Connecticut. On a fateful night, at the age of 25, he was paralyzed in a drunk driving accident. He tried many different adaptive sports before finding curling later in life. We'll talk a lot more about curling. He's currently a high school teacher and coach for the last couple decades, an accomplished motivational speaker, and he recently wrote a book called You Decide. And important for us here at Sports Save My Life is he attended the Pyeongchang Winter Paralympics and was recently announced as the vice skip. I want to learn more about that skip thing. Of the U.S. wheelchair curling team that will compete in the 2022 Beijing Winter Paralympic Games. I reached out to Steve a few weeks ago because I want to interview a curler, and he quickly responded. So, Steve, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Clayton. Looking forward to spending some time with you.
You got it, man. So, Steve, first off, what comes to mind when you hear the title of our show, Sports Save My Life?
Yeah, it nails me to a T. I've been involved in sports, like you said, in every facet of my life for many, many, many years. And I think it's an avenue for a lot of people in many ways to be involved and change their life. And whether they're, having a bad time in their life or a good time in their life, be involved in sports and reap all the benefits of being an athlete and being around different people and different sports and different coaches. And it changes lives, it saves lives, it improves lives. It's incredible. And I think it's a major, major point of everybody's life, kids, adults, whatnot, to be involved in some sort of sport. So it's an incredible sort. Sports saved my life. It nails it to a T.
Some people tell me it's a little too cheeky, but I think it's a good title. But so for you, I mean, you've just been an athlete your whole life. And so where would you be without sport? Who would you be?
I can't answer that. I don't know. From my earliest days, I can remember I was, I had 3 older siblings, and they were always playing sports. My parents were heavily involved in the community with coaching and mentoring. And so from my earliest, I'm on a softball field, I'm on a basketball court, a baseball field, soccer field with older kids playing all day, every day, or in my driveway shooting hoops for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So I don't know where I would be. I get asked millions of questions all the time. That's a tough one. I don't know where I would be or who I would be. I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be a Paralympian. I wouldn't be a successful author and a successful speaker and a teacher and a coach, for sure, if it wasn't for sports. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. Maybe if some people have like a really strong backup hobby, maybe they can go to that or something, right?
yeah, whatever. And it may not be a healthy sports hobby. So this is, sports. And I encourage, when I was coaching, I always get asked my parents, should my kid play other sports? And I said, yes, go out there. Don't focus on one sport. Go out there and multi-sport athlete, get different coaches, get yelled at by different coaches, get praised by different coaches. Go out there and just be a well-rounded individual. And that's what athletics does for everybody.
Yeah. That's great. So give me one sentence. Who are you? How would you define yourself?
I'm an educator. I'm a mentor. I'm an individual who loves to be around people and bring out the best in people because they see what I've done in my life, and I brought out the best in myself and been successful in everything I've done in my life.
I like that.
It's a
All
long
right.
sentence. Sorry, man. That's a tough one too.
I don't know if it was grammatically correct, but it was a good sentence.
No, not even close. But I'm a math teacher, not an English teacher, so I'm all right.
Expectations are low, I guess, on the grammar front.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so give me, start from the beginning. Childhood, siblings, kind of parentals, like situation. What's going on? What was the childhood like?
I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I have a brother that's 10 years older than me, a sister that's 9 years older, and another sister that's 4 years older. My parents were huge in the community. My mother was a volunteer firefighter in our town here of Hebron for 30 years.
Wow.
My father was an engineer. So they coached every season. They were coaching. And if there wasn't a team or a league formed, like, for example, softball, my parents, designed a team and formed a league so that all the girls in town could play. So if there was ever a need for a coach or a need for a league or a supervisor or a coordinator or something, my parents always were the first ones to volunteer their time. Obviously, never got paid for any of it. So we were always in a gym, like I said, or on a field or on a court somewhere playing. And for me, with the older siblings, it was always playing up in age and, being that brat little brother running around the bases and, Mom, I don't want to go yet, and trying to get home for dinner at 8 o'clock at night after the sun goes down after softball, but I'm still running the bases and all dirty and, not wanting to leave the court and not wanting to leave the soccer field and the baseball field. So for me, that's when it started right there. And my earliest, like I said, what I can remember as far back as possible, I was always involved with sports, whether it was organized or in my driveway shooting hoops.
But it sounds like your parents were a really important part of your engagement in sport for just not just you, but your siblings as well. Were they athletes growing up? Like, why were they so passionate about sport?
I think they were more passionate about helping others and giving back to others and community and all that. And in the sports, my father said he was a good basketball player. I don't know. I don't think he was. My mother was supposedly a basketball player when she was younger, but that was back when it was like, what is a 3-on-3 half court, with the skirts and all that stuff. So it was a long, long time ago. But they just always, and they taught me and they coached me in the sports. Like for example, my father didn't coach me in soccer because he didn't know anything about soccer. So, nowadays you get these parents that want to coach their kids in all these different sports, but they have no idea about the sport. And for me, I think that's a wrong thing to do. Go out there and find somebody that knows what they're doing. But my mother and father, they just wanted to volunteer and be involved in our lives and all the kids' lives. And they still, to this day, I lost my father when I was 19. My mother passed away about 10 years ago, but I still get to this day messages from people all around the country, our age, are saying, hey, your parents made a huge impact on me and just want to thank you for that.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing thing to get those messages and knowing that that's what they did for, us youth in the town. And now it's my responsibility to go out there and do the same.
And that is, I think about this a lot, Steve, because I moved a ton in my whole life. I was always moving, and mostly like from a divorce. But you lose that connectivity to people in the community, right? When you move, and so you're in your hometown where your parents raised you, so that that sort of legacy, you're right in it. You're right in the middle of it. Those kids that they impacted are your age, right? Or around your age. They're still mostly alive. And, it's kind of interesting, right? Because just that you staying in your hometown has.
Yeah, it's beautiful. This community is incredible. I moved away, obviously, for college, a few years, lived a couple, different places for a few years. But for the most part, I've been here my entire life. I taught at the school that I went to. Right. I coached at the school that I went to. I'm still the all-time leading scorer in the history of the school for boys basketball. I'm the only All-American soccer goalkeeper to ever come through. I'm arguably the greatest athlete, and I'll argue with anybody that my high school has ever seen. So yeah, everything is right here. And, there's a lot when I'm teaching, there's a lot of, kids that come through. Oh yeah. I went, you went to school with my mom and my dad. And I'm like, oh no, don't believe any of the stories you hear because they're not true. But yeah, it's an incredible feeling, great community. And they've supported me so much throughout my Paralympic journey and just everything in general. Just a great place to live. And I'm blessed to be here.
That's so cool. That's so cool. It's unique, I think, these days.
It is. It
for
is.
sure.
It doesn't happen often. And I think it should happen more, but just people want to get out and spread their wings, and that's fine too. But yeah, we
So
always got to remember back to our communities.
yeah, for sure. So I get that you're a sporty kid, and you're the last of a line of 4 siblings. So I'm sure your parents sort of left you on the ball field sometimes and forgot where you were or whatever. Because I have 3 kids, and it's tricky to track them. So if you got a 4th, I don't know how you do it. But what kind of kid were you other than sport? Were you obedient? Were you a rebel? Were you studious? Like, what was going on beyond the sport?
It was, it was so important to me that my mother was the volunteer firefighter, the first female volunteer firefighter in our town. So she was always around town. My father was huge in the town. If I had any trouble at all, if I got any trouble at school or hanging out afterwards, my parents would know about it before I got home. And you know how that goes. Wait till your dad gets home. And but I took pride in that. I didn't want to let them down. I know how hard they were working, and my father worked many hours to support the family. So did my mother. But they were incredible role models and mentors for me, and obviously love them to death. I didn't want to let them down, and so I kept that in the back of my mind. And a lot of things I did. I was a good student. I was A's and B's student. I didn't get in much trouble at all. I wasn't a crazy person. I wasn't disobedient and whatnot, because I knew that my parents would be disappointed in me. And that's a huge thing. That, be mad at me all you want, but if you're disappointed in me, that hurts. And, that's, we need to try to do more of that as people, just don't disappoint yourself, don't disappoint others. So I was a good kid. I did some crazy stuff like we all did, but for the most part, I just didn't want to let my parents down.
That's amazing. There's probably, you probably spoken to a lot of kids over the years, but there's probably some a lot of learnings in just how you approach being a kid, in your kind of your family, protecting your family's reputation, sort of, right, in the community. Huge. And look, it's paying dividends now, right? You're hearing it come all the way back. Share with me like a favorite memory from your early childhood.
My favorite memories were always, we lived here, obviously, in Connecticut, but we had a house in New Hampshire on a lake. And those were absolutely my favorite memories from my childhood. It was, 100 feet from the front porch down to the water. I remember just going down there early in the morning and never going back up until late at night, spending all day in the water, whether it was fishing with my dad, sailing on our sailboat, water skiing. I was an accomplished water skier through high school. Just spending the time on the water and spending time with the family and friends and all that, and the lakes. Those were always the fondest memories of me. And when I meditate and I need this peaceful place and it's all crazy in the world, I go back to sitting on that dock in New Hampshire, looking at the clear water on a, warm, sunny day. And it brings me back to, where I was and grounds me. And the whole aquatics, actually, the water therapy after my accident, we'll get to that later, but that's something that changed my life for sure. But my fondest memories back to those, days in New Hampshire, fishing for hours and hanging out with my family and friends.
That's so cool. Yeah, my grandparents had a house on a lake in Virginia somewhere, and I went a few times, and those memories are seared into my brain. I can't imagine if it was like I got to go every summer. Like I'm sure they'd be even more powerful memories.
Yes, absolutely.
Really cool. All right, so talk to me a little bit about high school, and then kind of the decision to go to West Point. You're playing 3 sports at an elite level. How are you juggling your life? How are you getting good grades? How are you? It seems like a lot of work to do 1 sport, let alone 3.
It was, it wasn't really that hard, because I've always been an athlete my entire life. Every season I'm out there doing something. So by the time I got to high school, by the time I finished high school, All-American soccer goalkeeper, all-state basketball player, like I said, all-time leading scorer, an all-conference baseball player. I don't know how many letters. I was, a 4-year starter in soccer, 4-year in basketball, 3 in baseball. So I guess that's, 11 letters through high school. So I was the school jock. Obviously, I was one of the most popular kids in the school because of the sports and my name in the paper and the headlines and all that. I was also a good student. So it wasn't really that difficult for me. I love math. Math came very easy to me. So the math and the sciences were easy. English, and I struggled with a little bit, and writing, and kind of ironic, I'm an author now. But so it wasn't that difficult for me. Just like my parents always taught me, do the work. I couldn't go out and play until my homework was done and I studied. So I would come home from school and I knew that I couldn't go. Even if my parents weren't home, I knew I had to get my homework done because it was embedded in me. I have to do that. You got to work before you play, which is huge. So it really wasn't that difficult for me. And I just, like I said, I just love sports. I'm a jock. I'm a jock by nature, by birth, and I just love any sport, any competition. Competition drives me.
And so are you getting recruited for all the different sports? Did you have some choices in terms of what sports you could do in college?
I did, yeah. Baseball was the only one that I was not getting recruited for, but soccer and basketball, especially soccer, I was being recruited by schools all over the country. Basketball, mostly on the East Coast. And when junior year, I got some information in the mail. My AD member came into my science class and gave me a letter from West Point. And that kind of intrigued me, and I was reading it over and I saw the uniforms and the bright brass and the discipline and the military and the serve your country. And I went home and I told my parents about it. And my father's like, "Are you crazy? Like, do you know what that place is?" And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that you're up at 4 a.m. and you're getting inspected every day and yelled at and screamed at. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, Clayton. So, but I loved it. They wanted me to play basketball. They wanted me to play soccer. So it was the right choice at that time to go to the military academy and further my career.
So you weren't sweating the military service piece of this at all?
Not at all. Not at all. No, my father's a veteran. My sister's a veteran.
Okay.
So, I wasn't moving around bases growing up, but I had a presence in my household of the military, and I had, I love my country. I love the USA. I'll go to fight for any time. And if that's what it meant. That's what it meant.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much did you play there before you ended up leaving?
So I went to prep school for 1 year because my grades were just a little bit below the level where they needed to be at. So I went to the United States Military Academy Prep School, which was in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey at the time. So that was a great year in my life because I was getting my academics squared away, but I was also getting introduced to the academy and the discipline and the military and, all the things that are crazy at the academy.
So that's a private high school, but it's sort of a feeder into the
It is, yeah.
West
it's
Point.
A feeder right into West Point. Absolutely. Yep. And right now, I believe they moved it now to the campus at West Point. So it's right there, West Point, New York.
That's cool.
Prep school is right at West Point. So, but when I went there, it was down in New Jersey, down at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. Again, another great year to get another year of sports in, soccer and basketball. So the coaches at West Point saw me personally coming up, academics squared away, military squared away. And then I went into West Point and I played 2 years, both soccer and basketball there, and had a great time doing it. I was more successful on the basketball court. I was a backup goalkeeper for the soccer team, but it was just being an athlete, being a Division I athlete, and the demands of being a Division I athlete, academically, sports, taking care of your body, all that. Just loved every second of it.
It's a good story. Makes me want to go back to college.
Yeah, right. If we only could, that'd be, if we only knew if we knew now what we know then, or whatever it was, crazy.
Well, you're going to laugh at this, but I quit soccer. I was a good soccer player. I was playing club ball in junior high after 8th grade because I thought I was too much of an individual to play a team sport because I wanted to be a pro skateboarder. So that's one of my little regrets in my life. I could have probably played in college. What was I doing?
Right.
Whatever.
But it all works out.
It works out. Okay. So talk to me about leaving West Point and, the circumstances around that.
Yeah. I was 19 years old. It was my plebe year. It was a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, and I got woken up in the middle of the night by my company commander, and he brought me down to his office, and I walked into his office, and obviously he's there. There's a police officer there, and there's the chaplain there, and they sit me down, and they proceed to tell me that my father had just passed away.
Oh my gosh.
He was driving home with my mother. He wasn't driving, but he was with my mother. My mother was driving. It was late on a Sunday night. They had just dropped myself and a few of my classmates off back at West Point after a weekend home here. They were driving home, and he fell asleep in the back of the van, and he never woke up. He had a massive heart attack, and he was gone like that. And he was 57 years old. I was 19 at the time. I thought I was mature enough. I thought I was man enough. Again, going back to it's, I'm untouchable. Being a stud athlete, I'm at West Point. I can handle this. West Point said to me, Steve, take 6 months off, take a semester off, go home, be with your family, grieve with them, spend time with them, all this and that. And I thought I was mature enough and untouchable and invincible. I didn't do that. I came back here on a Thursday. We buried my father on Saturday, and I went back to West Point the next day.
Oh,
yeah, just stupid decision at that point in my life, obviously. My father being my best friend at the time, my mentor, my coach, my role model, the provider, everything. And he was gone, and I didn't take it seriously. The next couple of months were awful academically. Obviously, my head was not into it. It wasn't right. I failed a bunch of classes, and then that just snowballed for the following year. So my first 2 years at West Point, I was on academic probation the whole 2 years. Couldn't go anywhere. My friends would leave and go somewhere back home for the weekend. I couldn't. I had to stay there because I was on probation. And just decided at the end of 2 years, no, this isn't for me, and I need to get home and be with my family.
And is it easy to leave West Point once you started it?
You have to actually, when you go through West Point, when you go through an academy, when you graduate, you have to serve 5 years in the military. But you have up until the day you step into your junior year, the first day classroom, to resign, and you owe nothing.
Oh, gotcha.
So if I had waited till junior year, I still would have owed some time, which would have been fine with me. And I didn't resign. I didn't resign at that time to not serve my country. I resigned to get home. It was time for me to get home and start over again. So I didn't have to serve any time, which again, if I had to, I would have loved to, but I didn't have to. So it's not difficult. No, if the circumstances are there, they let you do it, and it's okay.
And how's the rest of your family doing while you're struggling at West Point?
It was difficult on all of us. My brother, 29 at the time, my sister, 28 at the time, my other sister, 23 at the time. So it was such a shock. Again, my father, 57, perfectly healthy, helping out everybody, as you know, as we talked about already, in town and around. And all of a sudden, instantly, he's gone, and nobody had a chance to say goodbye. Nobody had a chance to, visit with him and spend his last few hours or days, and that was difficult on all of us. And my mother, like I said, passed away about 10 years ago, and I made sure, when I get to that I was with her when she went. But so it's difficult on all of us. And but when I got back here, we were all, we celebrated when we had the funeral. It was a mourning, but it was more of a celebration of life. And that's what I believe in personally. And how you feel is how you feel, and your listeners, whatever. But personally, when somebody does some of these great things in their life, let's celebrate. We mourn and we counsel and we grieve and whatnot, but it's also, hey, life is beautiful, and this person did incredible things. Let's celebrate this. So we came together and celebrated, and then I went back to West Point, and they went their own ways with their, spouses or whatnot, and we all went on with our lives.
And so you leave West Point to sort of get a fresh start. When does it dawn on you that UConn could be an option, and how do you end up just walking out of the basketball team there?
It's crazy. Well, right away I enrolled. When I came back, my mother's like, "You're going to school." I'm like, "Nah, come on, Mom. I want to hang out, do nothing all day and live off of you." She's like, "No, you're out of here. Go to school." But UConn is 20 minutes from me. So I was living at home and taking classes part-time. I was playing intramural basketball with a couple of my buddies from high school that went to UConn at the time. I was playing intramural basketball one time, and one of the coaches from Coach Calhoun, his assistant coach, was just happened to be watching the game, and he saw how I was playing. And, I'm 6'5", 230 at the time, hustling my tail off, get knocked down, get back up again, lose the ball, get back and try to get, make something positive happen, doing, just working hard and doing things the right way. A couple of days later, I'm hanging out in my buddy's apartment playing, I think it was a Nintendo at the time or Atari. I don't even know what it was. Phone rings and it's Coach Calhoun on the phone. And he had called my house and called my mother, and she gave him the phone number where I was, and he's on the phone, and I'm talking to him on the phone like, all right, here is Coach Calhoun, the legend, Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer at the time, and I'm a little kid from Connecticut, 20 minutes away, growing up and watching these guys and dreaming about wearing Connecticut across my chest and playing basketball. And here I am now talking to the man on the phone, and he's talking about all these X's and O's. We talked for 15 minutes and finally says, I got a spot on my team if you'd like to try out. And
wow.
Yeah, I'll definitely take that spot. So tried out and made the team, and next 2 years were just magical, great times.
So it's remarkable. It's such a remarkable story. So you didn't go there thinking you were going to walk on to the basketball team?
No. I went there to finish my college. I went there to.
You got discovered.
I got discovered, and it's same with curling, which we'll learn more about later. But yeah, I got discovered. I mean, doing the right thing. It's the old Bobby Knight definition of discipline. Yeah. It's somewhere out there, but it's something like doing the right things at all times, no matter who's watching, because you never know who's watching. And that's what I try to instill in everybody. You got to give your best 100% all the time. You don't know who's watching. You don't want to let people down. You want to make sure that people look at you and, hey, that that kid, that person is giving 100%, because you don't know. And just so happened, there I am now, and I find myself on a team for 2 years.
So I read in your bio, you didn't get a lot of playing time at UConn, but you were with a pretty incredible roster of athletes. So just talk to me about being on that team and that environment, and it just being, it's almost like a pro team you had.
Oh yeah. Ray Allen, we all know who Ray Allen is, one of the greatest 3-point shooters in the history of the game, Hall of Famer. Scott Burrell, one of the greatest athletes. I think one of the only athlete in the history of basketball and football that got drafted into both leagues. So he was an incredible player. Donnell Marshall, Kevin Ollie, and just future 5, 6, 7, 8 future not Hall of Famers, NBA players on that team, and have the opportunity to play with them and spend time with them in the weight room, spend time with them on the court at Gamble Pavilion and UConn, and hanging out in apartments afterwards. And incredible 2 years. Playing time, 38.7 seconds I played in 2 years. I don't round that up. I don't round it down. I'm very proud of it. I got into 2 games. I played 31.7 seconds on senior day, and then I played 7 seconds in the NCAA tournament. So, but
I thought it was 2 minutes. So they must count each one of them as a minute. They might round it up in the stats.
That's exactly what it is. Yes, but not me. No, that's too much. And if I were to say I played 2 minutes, I think I'd get a phone call from Coach Calhoun right now saying, "Hey, stop lying, man. You didn't play 2 minutes." So 38.7 seconds. And fortunately for Donnell, the video is from the game on senior day is great, because, we're blowing out St. John's, and, the crowd's chanting, we want Steve, we want Steve. And you see Coach Calhoun, like, not even looking my way. And Donnell's pointing to Coach, like, put Steve in. And Coach Calhoun's not even looking at anybody. Finally, he's like, this waves. And, I run up to the scorer's table, and I never touched the ball. I think I kicked it one time for some reason. I don't know, maybe my soccer instincts kicking in, but it's just incredible. Being a walk-on, your role. You're out there to work hard every day in practice, do well academically, keep your nose clean, make people around you better. And I love the practices. I love the weight room. I love hanging out with the guys, going to classes.
It sounds like a dream. Sounds like a dream.
It was. I'm traveling the country, staying in the best hotels. I'm sitting courtside. I got bench seats at Madison Square Garden, New York. Watching the Big East tournament. Who could say that? I got a towel in my hand, and I make sure I know where the cameras are. So I make sure when something good happens, I'm doing something crazy. There's the cameras on me. So I'm not stupid. Come on, Clayton. I know what's up.
The media career was birthed on the bench at
Oh,
UConn.
yeah. Oh, yeah. They love me. Woo, hooting and hollering with a towel. Yep.
So did you have I know you understood your role on the team, but when it came to practice and preparing, right, the guys that were going to get the minutes, did you have to, try to sort of play like players that they were going to play, or was there anything that you had to do specific in practices to sort of make sure the team was ready?
Yeah, many times, probably more often than not, I found myself on a scout team. Mm-hmm. So the assistant coaches, before practice would meet with us and go over, we're playing Pittsburgh tomorrow night or 2 days. This is what they're going to do. This is their offensive set. This is the defense, and coach us up on that. So, when we get into the practices with the main team, we're running their stuff, offense, defense. So, obviously not at their level, but right. You can see it. You can prepare for it. You know that this trap is coming here, or they're going to press here, or, this ball goes into the post here at this point. Just, you got to prepare. You got to be prepared. If you're not prepared for anything in life, whether it's sports or work or whatever, you're going to fail. So just preparing all the time.
That's pretty cool, because you see in the NBA, a lot of the guys that ended up coaching aren't always guys that got a ton of playing time, but they're just high IQ guys that have been around it forever. And like, you have to be high IQ to just run a new offense in practice, right? Every week. Like that's not normal, so like, you can't just, be sitting there kind of minding your own business. You got to be sharp, just to be in that environment.
Correct. And when you talk about that, the man that comes to my mind is Kevin Ollie, who I played with at UConn. Played 15, 16, 17 years in the NBA, probably for 30 different teams, which, I remember him battling for that first 10-day contract, and he got it. And then that just built and built. But he just, like you said, he was a sponge. And he just gathered information from Larry Brown to, all these great Coach Calhoun, all these great people, great mentors and teachers. He's gathered it and used it and coached at UConn for a little bit. And now he's running a Overtime Express program in Georgia, I believe, and for future pro basketball players, and just coaching and, inspiring youths to be better. It's just, yeah.
Well, that's a very high profile job, by the way.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yep.
It's not just some little program down in Atlanta, right?
No, it is not. It is big time. And he is killing it down there, and he's doing a great job with everybody in the program. Yep.
That's really cool. Really cool. All right. Again, you're making me want to relive college. Okay. So a couple years after college, right, you get into your accident. Can you just walk us through what happened that night?
Absolutely. I remember I was March 24th of 1995. I was working at an environmental company here in Connecticut, and myself and two of my buddies, Pat and Glenn, were working on a job, and we're talking, hey, what are we doing tonight? Well, March in Connecticut is March Madness, NCAA basketball. So let's go out somewhere and watch the game. And UConn, I believe, was playing Maryland that night, Sweet 16 or somewhere. I think they were out west. So we park at a commuter parking lot. I get into Glenn's truck, me, Pat, and Glenn. We drive to a local bar here in Connecticut. And right when I went into the bar, Clayton, they recognized me right away. The waitresses and the owners recognized me as being, Steve Emt, a former UConn basketball player. I just played a year ago. So right away, free drinks, free food, help yourself. Don't worry about anything all night long. We're glad that you're here. You enjoy the game, mingle. Don't worry about it. We got you all night long. And, that's what happened to me is not their fault. I'm not here because of that. So I want to put that out there. I took advantage of that. One drink led to another, and I got out of hand pretty quick. Unfortunately, from what I was told, I got into a physical altercation with another patron at the bar, and I don't remember it, to the point where I hurt him pretty bad. And the bartenders came over and said, hey, listen, we don't want any bad publicity, you being a former UConn player. So they told my buddies, Pat and Glenn, get Steve out of here. We'll call the police. We'll call the ambulance. We'll get this guy some medical attention. But before they get here, get Steve out, because we don't want any bad attention. So
wow.
They whisked me out of there, and I remember I got to my truck. I remember putting the keys in the ignition of my truck, And I remember starting to drive away. And that's the last thing I remember. They told me I was traveling about 85 miles an hour down the highway when I passed out behind the wheel of my truck, and my truck went off the right side of the road and I hit a ditch. And then I started a cartwheel and roll and flip 75 yards down the road, 3/4 the length of a football field down the road, cartwheel and roll and flipping. I was found laying next to the truck, so I got thrown from the vehicle. I did not have my seatbelt on. Terrible decision. The truck came to rest in a ditch on the side of the road on its roof. Obviously, all the metal gone, all 4 tires blown out, all the glass shattered, and I was found laying next to the truck. My clothes were torn off, blood, cuts all over me, nose, my mouth, my ears bleeding. Laying in the ditch, 2:00 in the morning on a snowy night here in Connecticut. And after everything I've been through in my life, at 25, normally at 25, we're set in our ways. We're settling down with our spouse. We're looking at that house. We're settling down in our career, and everything's going to be beautiful for the next 50 years. And we're going to have kids and all that. And not Steve Emt. I'm laying in a ditch on the side of the road and fighting for my life.
It's remarkable. And I use, our organization as Angel City Sports has lots of meanings, but I also feel like a lot of the athletes that we serve are angels. They were sort of somehow meant to make it through some challenges. You're in that group as well. How did you get found?
A police officer just happened to be driving the other way on the highway.
And saw the accident?
Yeah, he saw his light shine off the chrome of my truck. So he turned around on the highway.
So he didn't see the accident necessarily. He just saw that there was a truck on the side.
Correct. Yep. His lights just happened to flash off the chrome of my vehicle and caught his attention. He turned around, he got there, he found me laying next to the truck. So when something like this happens to the human body, a traumatic injury like this, there's something that's called the golden hour. 60 minutes or so. They say if you survive through that first 60 minutes, your chances of survival overall go up exponentially, go up big time. Usually you pass away within that first hour. So police officer figured I was in a ditch for about 30 minutes. He got on the radio, he called the hospital. The hospital sent Lifestar helicopter out. It took the helicopter 8 minutes to get to me. They took me 8 minutes to put me into the helicopter and then fly me back to the hospital. So if you do the math, 8 times 3 is 24, plus the 30 minutes on the ditch, 54 minutes. I'm looking at 6 minutes to live. Six. I'm like, wait. I'm Steve Emt here. I'm the stud athlete, the high school All-American. I'm the West Point cadet. I'm a UConn basketball player. I'm looking at 6 minutes to live.
Right.
Because of a terrible, terrible decision I made.
So what was your first memory in the hospital?
Waking up from my coma. They flew me back to the hospital, multiple surgeries. They cut me open from my chest down to my navel. I had massive internal bleeding. I broke the majority of my ribs. I broke my back in 3 places. I blew out both my knees. I had a head injury. I ruptured my spleen, so they took that out. And then I severed my spinal cord, which means now that I am paralyzed. I severed it. And it sounds as nasty as it sounds. It's pretty much nailed it. I cut it in half. So therefore, I'm now paralyzed, probably for life. There's no cure or anything right now for the damage I did to my body. So when I speak about my injury and my paralysis, I use the word probably. And, I haven't given up hope or faith or anything like that, but it is what it is. It's, it's my life right now.
Yeah.
I've accepted it and moved on. And then I was in a coma for 2 days and I was completely shut down. Obviously, I was hooked up to a machine that's, a respirator, that had a tube going on in my lungs that was breathing for me to keep me alive. The way I woke up from my coma was I had this dream. And the dream was I was at my old house here in Hebron, which is ironically about 10 minutes from where I live right now. And it was a spring day, hot spring day, but it was kind of rainy and misty out. And I remember I was in my old bedroom and I remember the window was open and I saw a cloud of mist come into the window. And I leaned forward into that cloud of mist to cool myself off. And something grabbed me and threw me down in the corner of a closet and started spinning me around real fast in the closet. And as this is going on, Clayton, I saw a beautiful, bright skeleton of a person, full facial features, bones, everything. And then all of a sudden, those bright lights came together at one point. And that's when I woke up from my coma, exactly at 6 o'clock in the morning, 2 days after my accident.
Dang.
Everybody I've talked to from here to California to Florida, and I'm not a religious person. If you are, that's beautiful. Your listeners, beautiful. Personally, I'm not. But everybody I've talked to from here to California to Florida, I've all said the same thing. Probably my father, my guardian angel, saying, hey, get back down there. Your time's not up yet. Listen, you made a terrible decision. You made a terrible choice to drink and drive, but you can impact people's lives.
Yeah.
Get back down there. Talk to people. Listen to people. Share your story. You know, get out there and just share what happened to you, because you can impact people's lives.
Okay.
That's my first memory of coming out.
But the perspective on you waking up is a very, let's say, enlightened and mature perspective. When you woke up, what was the feeling? Like, I woke up and I'm laying on a bed, looking straight up in the air, all the bright lights. I had wires and tubes sticking all out of my body. My hands were handcuffed to the bed so I wouldn't rip the respirator out of my mouth, which would have killed me. Oh my gosh. And the bed was rotating 45 degrees to 45 degrees left to right to keep my fluids moving so I wouldn't die of pneumonia. And before I could even think, Clayton, the doctor was there. The doctor did all the surgeries on me 2 nights prior. Really? Yep. She was right there. And she leaned over my body and she said, you know, she saw my eyes were open and she said, Stephen, you've been in a bad automobile accident. You will never walk again. And she left. Literally first words out of her mouth. First, not good morning. How you doing? Where you're here? You know, what do you want for breakfast? No, you've been in a bad automobile accident. You'll never walk again. And she left the room. What? Yeah. Talk about bedside manner. But you know what? No social worker to help. No counseling or not grief. No. But you know what? Again, that's me. Give it to me. Give it to me. You know, I don't want sugarcoating. I don't want, who knows what would happen if, somebody was there, rubbing my head and giving me a teddy bear. I don't know, but I think you would have been just fine, but yes.
Give it to me. Give it to me. And then my mother who, growing up, I thought my father was my rock. I thought everything I am today was my father. And he did incredible things for me. But my mother, I learned she's my angel. I am today mostly because of her and, what she's done with her life and the battles and the demons. She after her husband of 37 years died, she battled some demons, alcohol and just being a, negative person. And she got through them all. And incredible individual. Wow. She came into my room and, and now I'm paralyzed from the waist down, so I can't feel anything. But I did so much damage to my body that I'm numb from the neck down. Oh. I can't feel anything. She leaned over my body and I saw the tears in her eyes welled up. And one teardrop fell from her eye and hit me on the cheek and rolled down my face. And believe me, Clayton, when I say this, I felt that. And that was the deepest, most profound thing I've ever felt in my life. She kissed me on the forehead. Stephen, I love you. And she walked out. She couldn't handle it. I'm the baby of the family. Oh. I'm the one when my father was alive that he had a picture of me on his desk. My sisters and brother have done incredible things in their lives, but I was the all-American athlete. I was the man. So, Dad's got a picture of Steve on his desk. And here I am now, the baby, her baby, fighting for my life. And the hell I put her through for 2 days that I was in coma, and my sisters, my brother, and my loved ones, everybody waiting in the hospital, the waiting room, wondering if Steve ever was going to wake up. Right. So what did they tell your family while you were in the coma that they didn't know if you were going to wake up? They didn't know. They didn't know. The conversations between the doctors and my family, we don't know if Steve's going to make it through the night. You better start making funeral arrangements. Are you serious? Oh yeah. The priest coming in and reading me my last rites. Yeah, I was going down. Going down. God. But Angel City Sports, boom, Angels. My father there. He's like, no. Get your ass out there and hit some more jump shots. run the bases more, kick that soccer, do something, get out there, talk to people. You're not done yet, Steve. Get that down there and do something with this and use it. Hey, you messed up. Take responsibility for it and use it.
Oh gosh, I can't imagine. Your siblings, your mom. I can't imagine that journey. So, what is your? I get you feel the tear. You get some tough news right out of the gates. How's your state of mind in the hospital, and then obviously going through the rehab process?
Denial. I'm going to walk again. Look, I can move my leg. Well, no, that's a muscle spasm. Oh, I can feel my leg. No, that's phantom feelings. You know, all the questions that come into mind. You know, who's going to want me now for the rest of my life? Who's going to take care of me? Who's going to feed me? Not knowing. You know, I forget about the Paralympics. I had no idea. Forget about adaptive sports. I had no idea about being an athlete in a wheelchair. No idea.
Right. And you were worried about more even just the basic human needs rather than having fun on a basketball court or something.
I was worried to death. You know, basically, who would want to be around me now? Who am I? Am I going to be alone? I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. I'm a vegetable, which is an awful term. But that's, you know, and I'm allowing, and the key word here is allow. I'm allowing all these negative thoughts to come into my mind. That went on for about 6 weeks. And, you know, I was at rehab. I was doing my rehab and I was working hard and I was making progress. But then an incident happened in my rehab. I had a little setback. One day, the nurses were carrying me from my bed to my chair, and they dropped me. And I landed right on the tire of my wheelchair and I bruised my tailbone.
Oh.
For somebody that's in a wheelchair, it could kill you if you don't take care of it, because we're sitting majority of the time. So for 2 straight days, I had to lay in bed on my side with my butt cheeks taped wide open to the open window. Fortunately, I was on the second floor, not the first floor. But that's when I hit rock bottom, Clayton. Those were the darkest days of my life, those 2 days. And again, that's when I allowed the thoughts to come into my mind. Who wants me? Who's going to take care of me? Who am I going to be a burden on for the rest of my life?
And the reason that was the bottoming was you weren't able to be mobile at all, right? You are completely tethered to the bed in order to make sure you heal properly. And
correct.
So there's like to me, it almost feels like claustrophobic.
Couldn't move. Couldn't move to eat. Couldn't move to go to the bathroom. Couldn't move to do anything for 2 straight days. And the questions again, you know, especially being an athlete so much before that, you know, how I'm never, ever going to be able to play basketball again. I'm never, ever going to be able to run again or play sports or anything. And it was such a huge part of my life. And at that point in my mind, I was allowing myself to tell myself, I'm done. You know, I won't have that ever again. Why live? And I thought about, well, maybe this world will be a better place without me in it.
Right.
I thought about taking my own life. And it was awful. It was awful. The doctors, the therapists, the nurses would come in my room and I would throw stuff at them and I'd yell at them and I'd swear at them and get the hell out of my room. I don't want your effing help and leave me alone. I want to die and scream. And for 2 straight days, Were
you in a lot of pain too during those 2 days?
Yeah. Physically, mentally, emotionally. I was dying. I was dying spiritually. I was dying mentally. And I was allowing myself to die spiritually and mentally. But then something incredible happened. I healed up. The nurses this time carefully, gently picked me up, put me in my wheelchair, and they brought me down to the swimming pool. And they put a life jacket on me. And at the pool, there's a chair that they put me in and it lifts you over the pool and then slides you in and slowly lowers you to the water. And here comes this water theme again with my life. I grew up on a lake in New Hampshire. Here comes the aquatic therapy. As I'm getting lowered into the water, I see the water on my legs and my feet, and I can't feel it. I'm thinking to myself, this is weird. Remember, this is only 6 weeks after my accident. The water's coming up my legs, and I can't feel it. It finally hits my hips. It hits my chest and my hands, and I'm like, I felt it. It hit my face. It was incredible. It was like so refreshing and invigorating to have that water on my body. And I'm like, whoa. And I'm getting goosebumps right now. I was thinking about it. This is incredible. And again, it was like I was
like a rebirth almost.
I was born again. And again, I'm not religious. If you are, that's beautiful. But personally, I'm not. But it was like I was born again. And so there I am floating around in the swimming pool with a smile on my face, like, boom, it's time to go. It's time to get on and move on with life.
Are you kidding me?
That's it. Just like that. Just like that. And I made a decision right there in that swimming pool right there. I had to make a decision, Clay, and I was dying. Hey, I was progressing physically. I was going to be better physically, but I was dying up here. And a lot of times that's worse. That's how do you live like that? So I was dying. I had to make a decision. I was forced to make a decision right there in that pool. I said to myself, do I want to be this person I've been the last 2 days? And I was all by myself. They let me float around for 30 minutes, hour. Do I want to be this person I've been for the last 2 days where I'm a negative, dark individual and do I want to continue to allow these negative thoughts coming to my mind? Or do I want to go back to who I was before?
Yeah.
The stud athlete, the life of the party. I'm a public speaker now. I put me in front of 1,000 people. I love it. I come into a room and I suck the air out of it. I go talk to everybody. That's who I want to be. That's who I'm going to be. So I made a decision right there in the pool. I got to change my thinking. I got to change the way I approach this and accept it, because I didn't accept it until then. And when something like this happens, anything in life, we have to accept what responsibility for it. You have to accept before the healing can start. I couldn't start healing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually until I accepted that, hey, it was my mistake. I was the one drinking and driving. Nobody else. I don't hold anybody responsible. Let's move on with life.
Okay. So I talk to a lot of people in our community about very similar, stories. And I ask about self-acceptance. I ask about this, and I rarely get such stories. So it's remarkable to 6 weeks in to have this, this clarity. Now that you've been in a chair for, you're in your third decade, of being in a chair. When you look back on that moment and if you were to advise someone going through something similar, what would you say about how can they get to that self-acceptance place as quickly as possible? Because in your case, it happened so fast, it's sort of unrealistic to expect that. But how do you, whatever the length is, if it's 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, whatever, it's too long. We all want to shorten that for everyone. But what would you tell people to shorten it?
I would tell them first, yes. And now I will admit that 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it was at most, is unrealistic. But for me, I always had that inside of me. And I knew that no matter what happens, I'm in control of it. And that's what I talk about now in my book and my speaking and whatnot is, in my book is, be the hero of your own life. Basically, that's what the subtitle is. I would tell anybody now, listen, you have it inside of you. You may doubt that right now. You may not realize it right now. You may have never seen it right now, but you have it inside of you. And allow people to pull it out of you. Allow people, to reach their fist down your throat and yank it out and show you it, because it's there. We all have it. We do. We're born with it. We all have it. Some of us are stronger than others. Some of us are smarter than others. Some of us are taller, different colors, religions, whatever. But we all have inside of us that fight to move on and believe in yourself. And it will, not it can happen. We got to get some vocabulary fixed in the way we approach things. I'm hoping to do this, or I might do that. No, that's crap. I will get this done. I will be successful. I will overcome this. I will listen to doctors. So a lot of it is self-talk. A lot of it, 99.9% of it is believing in yourself. You're your own hero. And again, back to my book again. When I was growing up, Larry Bird was my hero. I bleed Celtic green. Anything he did, I was emulating. He was my hero. But when I woke up at 25 and I was told I was never going to walk again, he was going to help me get through it. I had to do this, and I have it inside of myself. We all have it inside of ourselves. Believe in yourself. It may take time, but you know what? It's there. And when you believe in yourself, you get through it and you will be successful.
Yeah. I think about this a lot too. And for you, it's even more acute which is oftentimes I think men define themselves by their physical abilities.
Yeah.
And in your case, your physical abilities had taken you really far in life. And to see that, right, at least in your initial mindset, sort of chopped down, right, that loss of abilities. How did that, how did you think through that part of it?
To be honest with you, I didn't at the time, of rehab and recovery. I didn't think about it much. I didn't think about the future and what I can do or can't do. I just kept my mind in the present. I kept my mind every day to, go down to the gym at the rehab hospital and work my tail off and get better today and make today better than yesterday. And tomorrow's gonna be better than today and so on. And, I'm a firm believer in that 1%. Every day you do 1% better over the course of your life, you're going to be an incredible individual in all aspects and all, facets of your life.
So that's really interesting advice. So to stay in the present versus like spinning, the scenarios for what the future could hold. Because I'll tell you what, Stephen, you've probably seen this in your experience too. The doctors, the rehab specialists, they all get these predictions wrong.
All the time.
They get them wrong both directions. They might set unrealistic hope, but they also might dampen hope more than it needed to be dampened. And so your advice is really interesting to kind of, it's not ignore it, but like try not to stay focused on that future what if, because you really don't know, right? And focus on that incremental improvement. And it's interesting because I don't know a lot about his story, but Michael Johnson, the sprinter, right? I think he's had a couple strokes, and he's talked about the recovery process from that being very similar to being an athlete and looking for those tiny, tiny improvements in your performance that if you do those, right, do enough of them over time, it adds up to a substantial improvement. So it's a very similar concept, which I love. Okay, before we jump into sport, just talk to me a little bit about at some point you like go to get back into coaching and you get into teaching pretty soon after, right? A few years at least after your accident. How hard was that to sort of get back into the working world? I hear a lot of stories of struggle and discrimination and in challenges in getting our community back, in the workforce.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. It wasn't a couple of years. It was 8.5 months after my accident.
Okay.
My accident was in March of 95. January of 96, I was back working, part-time because physically I couldn't handle it. But again, it goes back to, living for right now and appreciating life every day. Just when, back in 1996, I'm thinking, all right, 9 months ago, I was in a horrible car crash. I should have been killed.
Yeah,
I should not be here today.
You probably were. You came back to life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, come back as a dog in my next life or something. I don't know, but I'm done with my rehab. I can't get more, physical therapy. Well, I did throughout the time. I'm in counseling, so I'm improving my mental state there. I'm improving my physical state. I feel better every couple of days or so. I went home with a brace for a while. I got rid of that brace throughout the summer. So again, just getting better and better and improving. Time to get back to work. And I went back to work in January of 96, and I started working. I was working full-time, part-time, and then eventually full-time. But then I was working with a student at the middle school here as a big brother, as a mentor. And that just fireballed into me getting my teaching degree and going on and teaching. But, time to move on.
Yeah.
Time to move on. It happened.
And when you think about your journey to, living an optimized life, how important was getting back into the workforce to you?
You have to. It was imperative. I would not have been able to do anything if, just laying around and waiting for my therapist to come by my apartment to work with me and waiting for friends to come by and pick me up. And getting my license back was huge. Independence. I was, I had some great friends who would come by all the time and pick me up and take me out, but who wants that?
Yeah,
So I had to get my license back. So that was a goal of mine, and getting back to work, it was imperative. I had to do it. I can't sit around. I got to go out there and do stuff and be around people and be productive.
yeah, because I feel like there's a window in there that if you don't get back into the workforce, you may never get back.
Never.
And a friend of mine, I can't remember I think it was a car accident, paralyzed, and some like literally an angel that he didn't know showed up at the hospital and said, "The second you get out, I got a job for you."
Love it.
And like, when does that ever happen? Right. Like,
Yeah.
I've never heard that story ever. And I hear a lot of stories. And he talks, and he ended up getting an MBA from USC and, whatever. He's a very successful guy now. And he talks about how amazing that was, that somebody wanted him, somebody believed in him. And, he was a young guy, so he didn't even really have a lot of skills. And I think just kind of worked his way up, from there. But I think we forget about employment in that sort of recovery rehab process a lot, right? We so focused on the physical and even the mental side, but this could be a really powerful piece of this puzzle.
Yeah, getting back to somewhat normal life, whether it was what you were doing before or something brand new. I mean, we got to work. I mean, that's part of life.
But you can get addicted to disability insurance, and then now you're just living it, right? You're living, but you're not thriving there.
There you go. You nailed it. Yeah, you're living, but you're not thriving. There's really no other way to say that. It's perfect.
All right. So it's a really remarkable story and so many beautiful lessons that I'm sure you can speak to in your motivational speaking career. I want to now talk about sport. So I think, you tell me, you find sport reasonably soon in your journey. You try lots of sports. You've done some things, and I want to all pre-curling, right? Like, there was a journey in adaptive sport, Paralympic sport, sort of pre-curling. So talk to me about that. How did you get into any of these sports? And what'd you try? What'd you like? What'd you hate? And then tell me the curling story, because I love that.
Yeah. The sports, obviously I had to compete. I have to compete. I have it inside of me that I have to compete. It's just who I am. So for 17 years after my accident, I was working full-time as a teacher, didn't know anything about Paralympics, didn't really know much about, adapted organizations. Gaylord, my rehab hospital here in Connecticut, does an incredible job, but at the time, I really didn't know anything about it. I was too busy working, and I was coaching basketball, high school basketball. So my days were pretty full, and my evenings were practices and games. So, I couldn't participate in the sport myself because I was coaching. For those 17 years, I dabbled with wheelchair basketball, which, I never really had a desire to play. And
how did you find wheelchair basketball, though? From Gaylord?
They found me when I was 3 days out of my coma. Connecticut has a team called the Connecticut Spoke Benders. And I remember 3 days in the hospital. I woke up one day and 2 or 3 people in wheelchairs roll into my room and say, "Hey, you got to play basketball for us." and I'm like, wait a minute, what is wheelchair basketball? I didn't know that existed. And why are you here? I just got out of coma a couple of days ago. Leave me alone. Let me get on with my life. I got some things I got to square away first. And they just, they said, "Hey, listen, whenever you're ready, we have a team here in Connecticut. We'd love to have you. We know you're a basketball player before. And, we'd love to have you come out and try it out." I checked it out a couple of times, and it never really stuck with me. And I think it's because at the time, at 25 years old and being a star athlete, I think I could have done it easily. And those guys are incredible. The wheelchair basketball players, they're incredible athletes, and obviously runs circles around me now. But at the time, I think I could have been successful at it. Plus, I was a bigger player. So my understanding of wheelchair basketball, I don't know much about it. I'd be setting a lot of picks for these other little guys to score all the points. No, that ain't me, bro. No, I'm scoring points. I'm not setting picks. I'm scoring. If I'm playing basketball, I'm shooting 30 times a game.
You're so funny.
So basketball was out, which is fine. I tried tennis, did a couple camps with tennis, tried that. Yeah, it was a good time. It was all right. Didn't, fulfill anything. I got into road racing. I did some marathons. New York City Marathon was my biggest. 2 hours and 50 minutes of pushing and my, hand cycle. And that was brutal. Didn't fill that void. So I kind of resigned myself for those 17 years, especially, 2012, 13, 14 to, all right, I'm a teacher. I got my career set. I'm a high school basketball coach. I'm going on 15, 20 years of coaching high school basketball. Maybe I'll do that for another 10 years or so. I'm set. I'm good to go. And then I got stalked into the sport of curling.
Yeah. So tell me that story. So it's really funny. You're like in a parking lot, right?
Well, I went away one weekend, minding my own business. I went to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, about 2.5 hour drive. I went up there by myself, just hanging out, just to get away for the weekend. I check into my hotel. What do? I'm not from here. Well, I'm in Falmouth, Massachusetts. They say you need to go down to Woods Hole, Massachusetts, to go to this place called Pie in the Sky, get something to eat, hang out. It's on a harbor, watch the boats come in, enjoy the day. It's a beautiful day. I park my truck. I push up the hill and alongside the road to Pie in the Sky. I get something to eat. I'm sitting outside, minding my own business, enjoying the day. And around the corner comes this older gentleman, hair slicked back. He comes up to me. He says, are you local? Nothing else right away. He's like, excuse me, are you local? No, I'm from Connecticut, about 2.5 hours away. And there was 10 seconds of silence between us. And I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. He's looking at me up and down. I'm thinking to myself, I'm dead. Like, I'm getting stalked here. Like, I'm planning my route. I'm going to go down that road or get off the pier, go in the water or something. Finally, I say, do you mind telling me why you asked that? And he said, well, I train with the Paralympic curling team here on the Cape. I saw you pushing up the hill. And with your build, I can make you into an Olympian in a year. And I'm like, what the heck is curling? And where do I sign up? I heard Olympics, sport, let's go. Where do I sign up? That man was Tony Colaccio, who an incredible individual in my life, a huge mentor.
Yeah.
But he was just happened to be driving by on the road when he saw me pushing up the hill on the other side. He parked his truck in Woods Hole. He walked around the town for 40 minutes until he found me.
Wow.
I got stalked into the sport of curling. I got stalked into all this, and I'm so grateful. His wife eventually came around a corner and joined us. So the three of us who sat there for about an hour, talked curling, talked about the program, talked about the opportunities to travel the world and represent Team USA. It's a young sport. There's not many people in it now. You could do this, you could do that, you could be the greatest.
But how did he know you were going to be such a good curler?
I don't know if he knew that. I don't think he knew that at the time. Obviously, he didn't know me. He didn't know my personality. He didn't know what type of person I was. Tony approached everybody he saw. Tony's an incredible, talk about angels. Tony is an angel, definition of angel. He approached every individual he saw with a disability, physical, mental, learning, whatever, anything at all. Any person that was not being included, he approached them and would talk to them and give them a hug and sit with them and talk and hear their stories and include them in what he was doing. And it was he's an amazing individual. You ask him why, Tony, why do you do these things? And Tony was the only person. We lost Tony back in 2019 to a horrible, horrible bout of cancer. That's another story, but he was the only one. I'm very independent and I'm very motivated. He's the only one, though, that I would allow to take my chair apart, push me up a ramp if I needed it, because he was just so caring. And you ask him why, Tony. He goes back to his days, Italian, Tony Colaccio, Italian, big family. He had a cousin that was severely mentally retarded and confined to a wheelchair. So he remembers one holiday, him and his family, all the kids were outside playing, but they never included his cousin. And he remembers specifically, and this is Tony telling a story, his cousin sitting in the window and looking out and watching us all play sports. And a couple of weeks later, his cousin died. And Tony and his brothers and sisters were the pallbearers at his cousin's funeral. And he vowed that day, I think he was 13 years old, but he vowed that day to never, ever not include anybody in anything he was doing, especially a person with a disability.
Wow.
So when he saw me pushing, he saw a person with a disability. He had no idea who he was getting. He had no idea what he was getting into. He had no idea the fire he was about to light under an individual. And he had no idea the life he was about to change.
Man. Uh, and so what year is that? 15?
That was 2013.
Okay. So you spend the next 5 years, right?
Yep.
Getting ready for the Beijing Winter Games. I'm
Yep.
sorry, Pyeongchang Winter Games.
Pyeongchang. Yep.
Mixing up my Paralympics.
Yep.
And when did you think from the beginning you were going to make the team at some point, or was
Yes.
it
Yes. Oh,
like you
no,
had
it
that
was
confidence?
no doubt in my mind, Clayton. No doubt at all. I went back up to the Cape 2 months later. Actually, 2 weeks later, I went back up there, having a huge international tournament up there. So I went back up there, and Tony and his wife Mary said, "Come on up and try it." Uh, Next thing you know it, one player from Canada bowed out. So Canada needed an extra player. They're like, "Steve, you want to play?" I said, "So you mean to tell me I need to go to the Cape in July when it's 95 degrees out in my wheelchair and get on ice and throw these stones up and down the ice?" And I'm playing for Team Canada. And the next morning we're playing against Team Russia, the future gold medalists, throwing these stones. And it bit me. The sport just bit me right away. And it's so many amazing things about it. They went off the team. I got introduced to the sport too late to make the team. So they went to Sochi in 2014, about 6 months, 7 months later. And when they came back from Sochi, though, I joined Team USA and got put on a team right away in the top 5 and just started continue on from there.
It's the coolest. And by the way, it's such a testament to the advice that everyone should get in the adaptive sports world, which is just try everything.
Yes.
Like
yes.
You don't know, you can't predict based on pre-injury or anything what you're going to fall in love with. You just don't know.
You have no idea. And if I had known that wheelchair curling existed back in 1996, the year after my accident, I mean, you might be talking to a 5-6-time Paralympian right now. I mean, who knows? I wish I found a sport earlier, but everything happens for a reason. And I found it at that time. Why was Tony there? Why was I there? Why was, why? Things happen for a reason. And there's a lot of things that are out of our control. But like you said, do everything, try everything. There's so many things out there. There's so many different games, from the Valor games to the VA to the adaptive programs all around the country that want to help out people with disabilities. Go out there and try everything. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
But you did pick a sport that will allow you to play into your old age.
Yep. I'm glad I like the way you put that, by the way. Into my old age. So I'm not there yet. I like that.
You're middle-aged with me, right? You're not
old.
There you go. Old
yet.
No, yes. You picked a great sport. And there are some other sports that you can age with in the Paralympic movement. So I think that's important. And I've even hosted a couple of our older Paralympians, kind of over 50 years old on the show previously. Jasmine Ryan and Terry Hayes, fencer. And it's fun to see that people can, even in track, there are oftentimes some athletes that make it into their late 30s and even 40s, which is so cool. That doesn't happen on the Olympic side.
No, that does not happen on Olympics, and especially with curling is an incredible sport, to compete with the able-bodied also.
Yeah.
I can't go out there on a basketball court and play,
right,
like a Jordan one-on-one. You're going to get smoked. I can't go on a tennis court and play Serena Williams one-on-one. You're going to get smoked. But I can get out there with some of the best able curlers in the world. And as long as they're not sweeping, which is, I think, cheating, I can compete with them. So it's a wonderful sport. And like you said, it's a lifelong sport. I plan to play it, well into my 60s, 70s, if whatever I got to do.
So can you quickly describe the sport? Because I don't know. I mean, I think everyone's sort of heard of it, but maybe we haven't all understood it. But just kind of at a high level, what is the sport of curling?
Yeah, well, it's the sport of curling is on ice. It's the Olympic sport that you see on ice where, somebody slides along the ice and there's a round granite stone with a handle on it. Slide it on the ice and there's a bullseye basically at the other end of the ice. And for the most part, you're aiming for that bullseye. Now, the able bodies are walking in front of the stone on the ice and they're sweeping the ice with a broom. What they're doing is they're actually like melting the ice to reduce the friction to allow the stone maybe to move a little bit further or stay a little bit straighter. So that's the sport of curling. You've probably seen it, on TV during the Olympics, them yelling and screaming and all the funky outfits, the Norwegians wearing the checkerboard pants and the kilts from the Scottish. And it's an incredible sport. The difference between able-bodied and wheelchair is mainly two things: is we don't slide out of a hack, obviously, but we deliver the stone from a stationary position with a stick. And then the other one is that we don't sweep. So sweeping, without sweeping, I'm aiming for about, the size of a basketball, 140 feet down the ice. And it's a lot harder without sweeping. Sweeping makes a lot of bad shots look good. So kind of cheating, if you ask any of us in wheelchairs that curl. But it's an incredible sport. Anybody can play it, any age. I've curled with 5-year-olds. I've curled with, there was a guy at the Cape who was in the Guinness Book of World Records who was curling at 98 years old. And he just joined like 3 years prior. You're 95 years old. I'm going to go join a curling club.
Oh my God.
So just incredible sport.
And you're probably not the best person to answer this question, but I ask it anyways. There is a perception that it's really easy. And I have literally a friend of mine just the other day said, I think I'm going to start curling because I want to make the Olympic team as this able-bodied curler. And so there's this like perception, at least in people that I know, that think curling's easy. And it's like, like you could just do it for a couple of years and make the team. Because you did it for a couple of years and you made the team. So you're kind of the wrong person to answer this question. But how hard is it?
It's hard. It's hard. It is hard. It is. I made the team quickly because I would drive 2.5 hours on a Friday after getting out of my classroom to Cape Cod, and I would spend all day Saturday through the night, all day Sunday on the ice, 15, 16 hours on the ice through the course of a weekend, and then drive back home late at night, get back to my apartment at 1 o'clock in the morning and be back in my classroom 6 o'clock teaching every weekend. So that's how I went up the ranks real quick. It is a very difficult sport. It is a touchy-feely sport. It is mental, like 99% mental. It is insanely, breathe through the eyelids kind of sport, the Zen stuff. So it's very difficult. I challenge anybody to get out there. Oh yeah, I'll be out there in a couple of years. I'll be an Olympian. No, you won't. No, you won't. These Olympians now, the men, the women, they've been curling for, they're in their 30s. They've been curling for 20 years.
Right.
And just now making the trials. Forget about the team.
Right.
So it's a very difficult sport and it takes a lot of practice. A lot.
All right. You did a
So
good
bring
job.
it on.
You did a good job. I'm sure you hear that from people, but you did a good job answering that one.
Thanks.
Okay. So U.S. team, we did not bring a medal home from Pyeongchang. But
no, we if they gave medals for last place, we'd be number one.
There we go.
We did awful. We came in 12th out of 12. And that was, it's difficult to say, but there's winning and there's learning. Life, sport, anything at all. There's winning and there's learning and there's no losing. That last place finish, I think we were 2-9. The last place finish killed me for a couple of days. But then you got to switch again, allowing those negative thoughts to come in. You got to switch your focus to getting better.
Yep.
We went over there individually. We thought we were set. We thought we were good. I thought we were good. We're going to take on the world. Individually, we were fine. All of us were 5th, 6th, 7th in the world, stats wise, shooting well. But as a team, we were awful. And we didn't gel. We didn't mesh. We didn't communicate. We didn't trust. All the dysfunctions of a team that you hear about, we had them all. Check them all off. So for that reason, we did awful. When I came back, I had friends that have known my entire life, that have known me, that have no idea what curling is. And they said, yeah, I watched you. You were awful. Your team was awful. Yeah, it sucked. We did. We were bad. So, hey, we learn. We move on.
Okay. So channeling some of that energy into Beijing coming up in a couple months.
Oh, yeah.
Different team, different expectations, different culture, different energy. What's the expectation?
Everything is different, except for myself. I'm the only one that's remaining from the Pyeongchang team. We came back in 2018 and basically, for lack of a better term, people retiring and not making cleaned house. Coaching staff got a new demand on the athletes, on the teams. We were at a camping trip. We had a team camp up in New York, a camping trip, a bunch of us in wheelchairs in 2015. And coach laid out the training year for us. And it would have required me missing about 60 days of school. And I remember after the meeting, I said to coach, I can't do this. I can't miss 60 days of school. This is my job. He said, well, you know what, Steve, then we're going to have to replace you. If you want this bad enough, you want to be a part of this team and in the direction we're going, you're going to find a way to do it. So the coaching, the USA Curling recently turned over new, leadership and the CEO down and cleaned house, just put more emphasis on the athletes, more of us on emphasis on us curlers to take responsibility for ourselves and to, basically, you want this bad enough, you're going to have to do this. So new team, we're doing great right now. We recently, about 2 months ago, we were in Beijing at the World Championships. We took 4th place out of 12. We had a great week of, we had spent 4 days in Germany beforehand and a lot of no practice, no ice, just a lot of team building and finding restaurants and finding accessible bathrooms and falling out of our chairs and all that good stuff, all the team bonding stuff. And then we went out and during the week and took care of business and lost in a bronze medal match. But, now that carrot got a little bit closer to all of us and we're all working really hard for Beijing in about 6-7 weeks.
Can't wait. I can't wait to see how you all do. And I think it's a great lesson for a lot of us, right? That to come in last place, to learn to pivot, and keep grinding, and here you are. So it's a great story.
Yes.
Give me your kind of long-term goals in curling. What do you want to accomplish?
Well, when I started out, I told myself I'm going to get 3 Paralympics in. My age, I was 48 at the time, so I'll be 52 Beijing, 56 in Italy. As long as I continue on and continue to make the team, which I plan to do. So then after that, I don't know, but ultimately, I want to be seen around the world as one of the greatest wheelchair curlers ever in the history of our, sport. A great teammate, a great opponent, a leader, and that those things are important to me. And one thing when I went to Pyeongchang, it was before I went over to Pyeongchang, I was so hell bent on getting a medal. I needed a medal to satisfy everything inside of me. I needed to win. And if I did not come back with a medal, I would have been miserable for everybody around me. But during the Olympics, which is about 2 weeks prior to ours, there was an interview with Lindsey Vonn, did with Mike Tirico. And in that interview, she said, among other things, great things, she mentioned about, being an Olympian and we're, hey, listen, we all want to win here. We're the greatest athletes in our countries. We all want to win here, but we can't all win. It's more important to go out and show the world and show all the people watching, all the kids watching, how you're a great teammate, how you're a great opponent, and you're having fun, and you're a leader. And that's what the Olympics are about.
Yeah.
I wrote that out. I put it on my wall in the Olympic Village, and I read it 37 times a day. And I made sure that when I went on the ice in Pyeongchang, I had a smile on my face. I was a great opponent. I was a great teammate. I would congratulate my teammates, push them, get on them. I would congratulate my opponents on great shots. Just having a great time. And I know I did that because watching game film now, which I do so much, the commentators, oh, look at Steve Emt, they're 2-8 and he's still out there, smiling, having a great time. And I want to curl with Steve Emt and he's a great leader. That's important. Yeah. And that's what it's about. That's what the Paralympics and Olympics are about is we all want to win, but we can't. So go out there and show how great person you are and leader and teammate.
That's so cool that you found that before your last place performance. It's so cool that you almost your mindset was already in the right place. And I'm gonna share a quick story and wrap this interview up for you so you can get on with your day. But when my son Ezra did not medal in the high jump, and he really thought he was going to medal, we had a tough night of just emotional processing. And I similar to what you found with Lindsey Vonn, I didn't know what to say as a dad. You're just crestfallen for your child, but at one point I remembered Ezra, my son, had said something that impact was more important than medals.
Yes.
Which is sort of similar to what you're saying. And
yes.
I just luckily remembered that he had said that actually on the show, in the podcast. And I repeated it back to him. It was probably 1:30 in the morning. He's totally despondent. And I don't know if it was the turning point, but it was right around, it was close. If it wasn't the turning point into him reframing, what this was. And so it's super cool that you found that ahead of time. So you're in the right mindset throughout the games. And I don't think all athletes have that. You don't see it across the board. So I think it's really good. It's really good advice.
Yeah, that changed my life. I mean, it changed my life. It didn't just change my week as an athlete, as a Paralympian. It changed my life, and I take that now with me everywhere. And I thank her for saying that. And and anybody listening, the same thing. Like you said, it's the impact.
But by the way, you kind of had that this was so aligned with your core values, because you had that. The first thing you said was not disappointing your parents, right?
Right.
You have this mentality, so it spoke to you, I'm sure. But you're kind of, this is your cloth you're cut from.
Yeah, but we got to, we have to be able to switch gears between all this. There's a time to, go for the throat, but there's more. There's also time to, hey, show the world. Paralympians, Olympians. I learned after coming back when we went to DC, there's like 12,000 of us in the history of the country.
Yeah,
12,000 of the history of the United States. What is it? Billions of people, in the history. 12,000 Olympians and Paralympians, and I'm one of them. Your son's one of them. It's the impact. It's future generations, and showing people, especially somebody with disability, hey, you will do this if you put your mind and have a plan. You got it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Really cool. Okay, final section, soul searching, rapid fire questions. You ready?
Let's go.
Fun or interesting fact I don't know about you.
I don't know if you know, I was in the documentary The Last Dance with Michael Jordan.
I did not know that.
Episode 7, about 56 minutes in, but who's counting? But yep, I was in that. I was in the locker room hanging out with Michael Jordan, and they filmed it. And I'm in the documentary.
I'm gonna look for you. I've seen the first couple episodes. Have not gotten through it yet.
Yep.
What has your disability taught you?
Slow down, appreciate life. You're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna have speed bumps. Approach them, figure it out. You'll get through them.
This one's too easy for you, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What have you learned about self-acceptance?
It's mandatory. You can't go on life without it. It's imperative to success to accept what's going on.
You're going to chew this one and spit it out. What have you learned from your mistakes and failures?
They're going to happen. Life is inevitable. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail more than you're going to succeed. Baseball players, 300 average, you're a Hall of Famer. It means you failed 7 out of 10 times. You're going to fail. You're going to have setbacks.
Yep.
Approach them, accept it, move on. You're fine.
I like that. What brings you stress?
People not giving their best. People not doing their best. That's about it.
That's good. What life accomplishment are you most proud of?
Becoming a Paralympian. Excuse me. That's a good. Give me some tears. Representing this beautiful country we live in on the greatest of stages.
Yeah,
100%.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Life philosophy, if you have one, or a quote that you live by.
Give your best. You get knocked down, get back up. Again, life happens. Accept it. It's beautiful. We only get one. Life is beautiful no matter what's going on in your world, and you will get through this.
I think I know the answer to this question, but most important mentor in your life?
My father, my mother, my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. As I do with all my guests, I give you the microphone at the end of the show. Anything you haven't said, anything you want to throw out there?
No, I think we covered, this was amazing. We covered so much, Clayton. I appreciate it. No, this is incredible. For everybody out there, in the world that, might be stuck right now. We got a lot of crazy things going on in the world, might be stuck in their own path or in their own ways. It's going to get better. There's this, everything. It's going to get better. We're going to get through all this, and you're going to get through it no matter what you're going through today. Tomorrow, you will get through it as long as you have the right mindset and the right action plan, and you got people around you that care about you. And life is beautiful. Things happen. They're inevitable. We accept it. We focus, turn our attention. A lot of people are stuck on the actual event. Let's take my accident, for example. If I didn't accept it and I stayed focused on that event, I never would have been able to heal and become successful in who I am today.
Yeah.
So we need to turn our attention from the actual event, whatever that is, losing a job, getting married, accident, whatever, to how we're going to react to that event. And that's one thing that I stress in my book. One thing I stress in my speaking. Turn your attention. No, it happened. Right? Get past it. Now, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to become better? Is it therapy? Is it counseling? Is it talking with people? Is it whatever it is? You're in control of your own life. And like my book says, be your own hero. There's other people in your life that are mentors, but be the hero of your own life. We only got one of them, and you got an opportunity to do great things, and you will do it.
That's fantastic. Where can people follow your journey?
My website, steveemt.com. There's a lot of information on there. My book is on there. A link right to Amazon. It's been in the top 10 ever since it came out. Hit number 1 a couple times. So it's that's there. My life story, my speaking engagements, how to contact me. Everything is right there. So that's a great place to start. And my phone is always on. My email is always open, and my texting. And anybody that wants to talk or send a message or advice or help or whatever it is, I'm there for you.
And I will attest. I texted Steve out of the blue, and he's like, "I'm in."
Do it. Let's go. Angel City Sports. Let's go.
And now that we have a curling center in Los Angeles, which will be where our base of operations is, we're probably going to see a lot more of each other.
Yes.
So listen, Steve, truly, truly inspired by your story. Just thank you for sharing all the twists and turns and really the beautiful lessons that you've learned along the way. And I know our audience is going to love this episode, but just thanks for everything you do to, inform, educate, and inspire the world. Thank you for what you do for Team USA. We do have an amazing country. We are not perfect as a country, but man, so I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And just really proud of all the Team USA athletes and the work that they put in, because it is kind of a not so glamorous life at many levels, the life of an athlete. So just thank you for all you do for our country as well. And I'll see you on the ice.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.